everyone. This is Michael Koff, your co-host of Exploring Our Secret Past with Carla and Norris. We have a special
Hello,
guest
everybody.
tonight because we are wanting to talk about Broken Bow Asylum. So we thought, how better to do that than with the owner herself, Miss Ashley Storm. Thank
Yay!
you,
Hello.
thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Please hold your applause.
Please.
Please, let's keep the applause to a minimum so we can hear.
Whatever, don't nobody like me.
Hey, I do.
Oh, yay, one
So,
person. Hurrah.
What is new with Ashley Storm?
Aside from being on my deathbed, nothing. I have been
Good. I'm not the only one.
struggling to find out what the heck is going on with me. But aside from that, just crazy busy. We had a storm recently. This was the craziest thing that happened. So, like 30 minutes before I get this message, and I'm pretty sure you guys saw the pictures of like the trees down and just all the damage done to my neighbor's yard and the front of my yard. About 30 minutes before that, one of the police officers that I'm friends with on Facebook, he was down by the lake and he was like, oh, it's sprinkling. And that was like the first time we'd gotten any like semblance of rain in that area for like 3-4 months. And about 10 minutes after that, they're getting reports of like 60, 70 mile an hour winds in downtown Broken Bow, like no tornadoes. There was actually no tornado activity. It was just wind that did all this. But then we were looking at all the damage. We're like, it had to have been like touchdowns every like block. It was directional. It was weird. It wasn't like wind damage. The neighbor right across from me, you've seen his house, Michael, the one right across from me.
Right.
That he has 2 huge trees, beautiful trees sitting in his front yard, and the wind knocked one down on top of the other one, so it actually completely uprooted it into my front yard onto my patio.
Oh, wow.
So I have lots of extra firewood right now.
Wow.
But I also have a lot of roof damage.
There you go.
And that's not good because the roof was already pretty bad, especially on the north wing, which is the north wing ended up getting the most damage. I'm just glad it wasn't the south wing or part of the main wing that I'd already gotten redone, you know. But
I was just about to ask, was it the new spot or?
No, thank goodness. Thank goodness. But
Yeah.
now like the holes that were in the north wing are much bigger, and now we've had like nonstop rain for the past 2 days, so that hasn't helped the situation in any way, shape, or form. Steven, hello.
Wow. That is crazy.
Yeah. And along with that, we just had another robbery. They stole all of our paranormal equipment, which is over like $4,000 worth of stuff, all of our cameras, detectors, like everything that we had. Even like dowsing rods. Like, how are you going to resell dowsing rods? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, just like, I understand like the cameras and like big electronic equipment like that, but there was also like a bunch of like random shit in there that I guess they didn't just like nitpick through the bag and just took everything, but took the cots.
Apparently there's
all
a
of the
black
cots.
market. Wow, apparently there's a black
dowsing
market
rods.
for dowsing rods.
I wouldn't be surprised, dude. Like, I honestly wouldn't be surprised at this point if they're like stripping it out of the copper, out of the fucking dowsing rods.
Right.
Because that's another issue. I've replaced the copper twice at this point. We're going back to do the paneling because I'd finally gotten the main section of that main wing rewired. Go to the back to go and get everything like hooked up and whatnot, and the copper is stripped again. So, and it's a really old building. Like, unless I spend another like $7,000 to put in a new unit, you know, inside to make it safe, but it's just not viable. I mean, this thing is just it's a money pit. People think it's like all fun and games and like Disneyland. I mean, it kind of is. Don't get me wrong. It is nice, but it's more of a responsibility than I think people realize it's like just like
Really?
a place for you to have fun. You have to take care of it. And I feel so bad for my spirits, especially ones that stay on the north wing. I'm like, go sit over in the main. Like, I know it doesn't really matter to you. I don't know if it matters to them that it's that gross in there. You know what I'm saying? Or if they see it
Yeah.
the way that they saw it when they were living. But I know that it's funky. And I'm like, just like Nick, especially, I'm like, dude, just go stay in the main wing. Like, it just makes me sad that he has to stay there. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah.
Hey, Nikki.
Hi, Nikki.
Yeah.
So
don't like
I
it.
gotta admit, reading your bio, Ashley, I learned something about you I did not know.
What was that?
Being that
I don't
you
even
are
remember
from
what's in it.
Guam,
Yeah.
I had no idea you're from Guam.
Yeah.
I'm
Still
like so
American.
excited. I finally know someone from Guam.
Still American, but yeah, I'm from Guam. My family's from Guam, but I was born in Colorado Springs on the Air Force Base, actually, because both of my parents were Air Force brats. So both my grandpas were in the Air Force, and they were stationed at the same place. So I was born on an Air Force Base. We moved to Guam when I was like 3 years old, 2 or 3 years old. I was very little
Oh, wow.
when we moved there. And then we moved back to New Orleans. Well, because we lived in New Orleans for like 4 months in between that move from Colorado to Guam. Like we stayed and visited family for a while because we were going to be overseas for
Right.
so long. We stayed with them for like 7 or 8 months, I think. And we flew to Guam. Then we flew back from Guam when I was like 8 or 9, because I got a subdural hematoma. That's when I had my near-death experience. I was placed in a sleep-induced coma for 2 weeks because of the subdural hematoma that I had gotten on the last day of school,
Wow.
and they didn't have like the proper technology to keep up with everything the way that they needed to with me there. Instead of having to fly to
Right.
Hawaii for every procedure, my family just decided to move back to the States. So that's when we moved back to New Orleans. Was
Wow.
because I got head troubles.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So what was it like growing up in Guam?
Different. It's it's weird how you guys live on the mainland. Uh, it's so like I don't know. It makes me feel not. I don't want to say gross. It makes me feel uncomfortable because like you guys eat with spoons and forks and like wear shoes everywhere, and it's not like that where I come from. My husband, when we're in restaurants, he's constantly like, use your spoon, or like because we eat with our hands. Like I don't think I
Yeah.
actually like used a spoon for every meal until I was like in 4th or 5th grade, and only because at school I would get in trouble for that too. I'd be there like eating my mashed potatoes with my hands and I have like a chicken nugget in the other one's spoon, like, oh, oh, oh. And just like, gosh, like use your utensils. I'm like, but it tastes funny. So fun fact, I actually do not use like metal utensils. I can only use plastic ones because I have a weird allergy to like pure gold, pure silver, and like nickel, like all different types of metals.
Oh,
Oh
wow.
wow.
So it makes food taste funny when I eat with forks and spoons that are metal. So I don't do that. That's always why I thought I
I've
was
heard of
kind of like
that
a
metal
fairy
poisoning.
creature. Well, I'm a fey creature of some sort because iron gets to me and metals get to me the way they do. It's very interesting.
It is interesting. Wow.
Could
Yeah.
I'd buy that.
Yeah, right. I'm some type of creature. We know that for sure.
That would explain a lot. Boy, that answers the next 3 questions.
What do you identify as? Oh,
No,
man.
actually, I do have a really interesting question for you, Ashley. I thought long and hard about this, reading everything that you do. How do you balance being a mom, being gifted like you are, being a paranormal investigator, owning a haunted location, and doing 2 podcasts? and you do your other work.
Yeah, and I have real jobs. I do normal people work too. I don't think I balance them well at all. I think I just survive because that's really all that you can do at this point. I think the balance is mostly there for my son because no matter what, comes up, he's always going to be first. So like, I mean, and you guys have been really thankfully the patrons that I've had at the asylum have been really understanding about it. Like, so when he gets sick or something, or I don't have someone to take him on the weekends because my mom has an autoimmune disease, so she gets sick a lot off and on. I'm the same way. And Oliver's been being exposed to outside for the first time in his life because he was a pandemic baby. He was born December 19th, 2019. So like literally 2 weeks before quarantine hit and everything like shut down, he was born.
Right.
So I didn't let him go anywhere for like a year and a half because I was like, outside's not going to kill my baby. You fuckers, you're not going to kill my baby.
Yeah.
So now he's finally getting to do stuff, but he's always sick, which I get totally fine. But as a mom, like the last thing you ever want to do when your kid is sick is like leave him with someone else, even if it was with his dad. I just feel bad that I'm not there to be a mom to him. And so I've had people like you guys, like when he gets sick or something, you guys are good to go on your own. You don't have to have me like, I can trust you guys. That's also one of the things that makes it easy to quote unquote balance it, if you want to call it that, is having people in this field that are my patrons, but also have become my friends to the point where there's this ebb and flow with the location, that if a certain group's coming, I know I do not need to be there to watch them, to make sure they're not breaking rules, to make sure they're not disrespecting my spirits or using provocation when they've been asked not to, and even sign documents telling them not to and still do it,
Yeah.
That's where that comes into play, that I have so many people in this field that I can trust, and that even just after one visit, I usually have a repeat customer. It takes really one visit to this place for people to be like, ooh, there's something going on here, but also that friendship that I develop with those people, that's made it a lot easier. Because then I also have people like Michael and Angela and Tanya lives in the area, that if I need help and I'm struggling because I usually do everything by myself, Michael one time drove all the way up to Broken Bow for me to bring people a toilet and the overnight charger because someone had brought it back when they weren't supposed to. Like, I could not leave. My son was sick. Like, just all these things. He was in and out of the hospital that weekend. And I'm like, instead of old me would have been like, I got this. I'm going to like drive the 6 hours there and back real quick and I'll be back, and just do it on like 2 days of no sleep. But I was like, no, I have people that I can trust that won't be like, well, if you give me a free day, yeah, I'll do it. Those people that come with terms and conditions, things like that. So it makes it a lot easier to have people in this field.
Yeah.
That helps me balance it the most. And with the investigating and stuff like that too.
Help.
Yeah, he was just like, yeah, sure, whatever you need. And I'm like, that was too easy. You know what I'm saying? Like when people,
I know.
I'm just not used to people being helpful the way I'm helpful. Because
I know
that happens a lot. It just does.
It kind of made me feel a little uncomfortable when you're like, I'm going to do this for you. I was like, well, that's not why I was like,
are you sure you don't mind?
Okay.
After he said yes, like I spent like 20 minutes arguing with him. Like, are you sure you want to do that? Are you okay? Are you positive that you're okay with going and doing this for me? Like, you don't, are you sure? And he's like, yes. Are you sure? Happened for like 20 more minutes before I was like, okay, we are doing this. Because I feel like I'm inconveniencing everyone else, but I think it helps to have people who are just like, no, I promise it's okay. And their intentions, and being able to read people the way we can. Because a lot of people are like, no, it's fine. But you read their energy and you're like, oh my God, it's not fine. So then you're just like, never mind, I'll do it myself.
Yeah.
That happens so much. And it's just nice to have people that I don't have to be like, no, never mind. It's fine. I'll do it myself. Because I feel like I'm intruding upon you just by asking something simple. That was not a simple task, though, by any means, and I appreciate it.
No, they were a trip, too.
Hey, Ashley, want to tell us a little bit about some of your groups and organizations that you support?
Where to start? I'm trying to think of all of them. Okay.
At the beginning?
So, which one? You said at the beginning.
I said at the beginning.
But where was that? It feels like it was so long ago, but I know it really wasn't. So the first thing, obviously, was Profoundly Paranormal. That's the group, my paranormal investigating group, but it's not really a group. It was just myself for a very long time. Off and on, I would have Jason with me. He hasn't been part of the team for a very long time. They're just scheduling differences. Like, you can't investigate when somebody's like never off and can't actually go. So it's like kind of pointless to always like put your stuff on hold because this person can never get off. Like, he's welcome to come whenever he wants, but it's just not like we're doing this together. We're doing this together. You know, if I get a wild hair at my butt and want to go, then I'm just going to go. I think that I have frozen.
Steven's got him. You're good.
I'm frozen on my end. I'm like this on my end, so whatever.
Don't mean to interrupt, but Stephen has something he wanted to bring to your attention.
Just call me Goober. You have my number. Wait, what? He's such a goob. Just call me or text me. You have my number, fool. I love you, but you're a goober. Just text me. Yeah, but Profoundly Paranormal. And then Angela came into the fold actually 2 years ago to this day because it popped up on my Facebook thing. And Angela came about because she had started messaging me about different like hauntings and stuff in the area. She lives in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and she was just curious about it. And I guess had found my stuff. Unlucky her. And then she decided to come to one of the events that I was having at the asylum today, actually, August 2nd, 2 years ago. It was the weekend, and that was the weekend that I also met Tanya and Sarah Underwood, the ones that helped me up at the asylum. Joseph, too, their son. Well, not Tanya and Sarah's son. It's Sarah's Joseph's sister. Just got to make that straight because, you know, this day and age, we got to just the dynamics.
Yeah.
Make them known. Okay. And then that was also the first time my mother-in-law ever came to investigate with me. Really? And she actually brought her dog along with her because I had a bunch of spirits asking for a dog. So I was like, this would actually be the perfect opportunity because not only can she not leave her dog, you know, he has to come anyway. This will be a perfect trigger experience.
Sure.
But it was just interesting.
Yeah.
The mood was very different in there. It was just very light and playful because it was not by any means like how it is now. This was still in its heyday of just nothing but aggression, and I'm going to mess with you as hard as I can to get you to leave because that's what they were used to people doing, was just leaving them. So that's the kind of the attitude they got, was just not necessarily we want to be alone, but they definitely tested you to see if you would still love. It was weird. It was like, will you still love me if I act like this? That's exactly how it felt. And it was like, yes, I'm fine. Just let's set some boundaries and rules. And it has changed so much over the course of the past few years. But that's when it was still kind of aggressive. And we went in with the dog, and even Nick, who's usually like, he went up, was like, oh, like, it was just the weirdest thing. And we kept getting these weird light anomalies around the dog. Like, usually I don't like the word orbs, and like I am real big about, like, unless I see it with my eye or like feel something at the same time, or I'm seeing something at the same time that anomaly is captured, I don't really put any weight into it. But I could feel all of the energy just swarming him. And we were getting on camera and just visually too, just all of these weird light and like huge too, kind of like ranging from like about that big to about that big, you know, but pretty decent
Good
size.
size.
And just all around him all night. It was really interesting. And so it was the first time I'd ever met any of them, and we went on that investigation together. And I just loved Angela's enthusiasm because it was like a kid in a candy store, which is the way I am still to this day, like every single time I go in somewhere. And I loved that energy. And I was like, you live kind of close by. You live like an hour away, but that's still fine because in Texas, everyone lives an hour away, at least. But I asked her to be a part of my team, and she said yes, and now she's been stuck with me ever since. But she hasn't been with me since March. She's had some personal stuff going on, so she's kind of like taking a step back. But
She was there in April.
with me this weekend.
She was there in April when I was there.
Then it was April, sometime in the beginning of the year. I don't exactly remember when. She hasn't been at the asylum, like with me at least, because she was there with her family when I took that trip, that vacation I took. Right. I took that the weekend her family went because I was like, oh, I ain't got to do a history tour for the first time in 2 years. That's what's up. I'm going to take a whole weekend off. And it was lit. I got drunk for the first time in like 4 years. Bruh, it was awesome.
That's what makes the vacations.
Ollie went to bed early, and I was like, yeah.
So what made you decide to buy an asylum?
Why not?
Yeah.
No, more than anything.
That's that answer. I love it.
No, I really didn't want to. And to people like us, it doesn't sound crazy. I realize like I don't have to be like, I know this sounds crazy, but when normal people, and I say normal, I mean like people who don't do this stuff, when they're like, you do what? I'm like, oh, well, see, I own an asylum in Broken Bow. So you take care of asylum patients? No. So it's not actually an open asylum. It's a haunted place. And then that gets you an even weirder look. And then it's like, just this whole thing. But I couldn't leave them just to be alone. Like, I had been there for so long and been helping run that place for at least a year before I ended up buying it, and investigating for like half a year before that, or like 8 or 9 months or so. You know, I'd been there for almost a stretch of 2 years before I ended up buying it. And it just started off as a family vacation where I was pregnant and I couldn't go and do the normal things that I would normally do, like zip lining and water skiing and things like that. So it's like, I'll just go walk around and investigate somewhere real quick, you know? And my thing is
totally normal to me.
Exactly. And it is the normal, like,
I mean, zip lining, haunted location. I think the haunted location wins every time.
Thank you. Well, not really. I would like to go zip lining first and then do it, you know, but I couldn't because of the baby.
Oh, so. Maybe we could put a zip line into the asylum.
Fuck that. My roof would bust. My roof would bust the second we try and string that up there. Oh my gosh. Oh no. Could you imagine they would have a fucking field day with that though, because the way they play with the swing, you can imagine it's like hearing all throughout your investigation and be like, can you just knock it off?
Or I could see you going, Nick, you gotta send it back. We got someone waiting.
And then it just go bam and slam like a toddler would do. Yeah, that makes sense. But I had been going there for so long, and like it just started off as when I was working for the American Ghost Hunter show. I was like, I might as well just go live while I can, you know, because I'm at a location, might as well take advantage of it. We needed coverage for that weekend, so I did it. And it was the response that we had gotten at that location just from the fans and everything, that Alex and Daryl wanted me to do it more often at that location because we were getting so many of those views from that area. And then Andrew, the gentleman who I bought it from, he saw how many views it was getting, and then that Halloween run they had right afterwards, because that was in August or June or July. It was during the summer that I had first investigated. But that October, they had the most amount of visitors that they'd ever had. And a lot of them saw that place on our show.
Mhm.
So he asked me to run haunted history tours and like do like my ghost thing, but make it like a tour deal, basically. So that's what I did the other 11 months of the year. He would just do October, the haunted house, and then the other 11 months I would run haunted history tours and beginner tours and like beginner learning investigations and things like that. Like whatever packages basically anybody wanted, I would just kind of meld what the variation of what they wanted together and then do it that way.
Mhm.
And then all three guys, because it was originally owned by three guys, all three of them just like gradually and slowly dropped out of owning this place because they had experiences themselves. And I'm just like, nope, I'm good. Like, I'm gonna fuck with this shit. Like, And so Andrew ended up being the last one. And he also was like, this is too much. I have other stuff going on. Would you like the building? What?
Really?
I should have said no, because technically I can't fucking afford it. You know what I'm saying? Like there's all these very, very sound and logical reasons to say no,
Mhm.
but I couldn't, because it was like, what's going to happen to them? Somebody else is going to come in here, and it's been so many different things over the years. It was a trauma center. It was a halfway home. It was a level E offender facility. It was a fire training facility. It was supposed to be a church. It was a nursing home. It was a hospice care center. You know, it was
It's almost like, what hasn't it been?
exactly.
Right.
And I didn't want it to become anything else but a comfortable forever home for those people who've been wandering for so long and been just kind of uncared for and loved literally their whole lives. Like it really does not feel like they were cared for when they were actually in there. That's definitely the feeling you get from, especially
Right.
initially, the first few years that I was in there. And I couldn't imagine it any other way. Like they became family at that point. And now it just, I don't know.
Do you think
It's
that impacted the
driving me
spirits?
crazy and making me broke, but
Yeah.
you know, gotta keep them happy.
Do you think that had an impact on the spirits, that people would keep using the building for different things and it keep changing?
Oh yeah, and especially because of everything that it ended up becoming. There was never anything light. You know, aside from the church, which didn't even end up getting built because of what happened, but um it was never anything good. It was never anything that brought peace or positivity, any type of sense of lighthearted environment. Like it's never been anything that was good in the sense.
Well, no stability too. I mean, if it's
Mm-hmm.
constantly
Yeah.
changing and people are coming and going,
Yep.
they probably just felt like they just have been tossed aside.
Yeah. Especially because it is their, everyone attributes it to it being their fault that they leave. There's too many instances of being touched, hearing noises. You know what I'm saying? Every single business that it's
Right.
been has left because they're having these interactions with them. But I think they're just reaching out because everyone just wants to be loved and heard.
Sure.
And
Right.
I mean, they're dead and still craving it. You know,
Well,
so
and
that's
it's
what we
like,
try and give them.
yeah, and it's like they live there too, so it's like, you would want to interact.
Yeah, but they don't. I get it for people who are like, again, for people who don't do this, who aren't used to, or who don't be like, hey, can you touch me? Who don't go into places asking for stuff like this to happen. I get that freaking them out. But I also think that some of my spirits might have been, I won't say that they were always nice about it, because sometimes humans still, they're not necessarily always nice about it. Just kind of depends on their mood. But I mean, we all have moods.
Right.
And ghosts aren't any different. We can't be like, oh, you're always supposed to be proper and on your P's and Q's. Just having a bad day, man. Like, it happens. But definitely in this location, I think the fact that we bring them so many people that not only just sit there and listen to them for hours and hours, ask them personal questions, bring gifts, and bring that open spirit of, they can read our thoughts, they can read our intentions. They sense that all that we want is their truth. And I think that to my spirits means more than anything. And that's why that energy has been able to shift into something so heavy and just kind of, again, not aggressive, but very in your face, to something still heavy, because there's a lot of energy, it's still very heavy, but much more appreciative and interactive on a level that's much kinder and gentler than it used to be.
I'd almost go on the verge of saying playful too.
Oh, very playful. The way they play like hide and seek with you or tag. I think tag would be a better term for it. But they'll like start making noise on one end and you'll go, and then they'll start making noise on the end you just came from and you'll go, and they'll start doing it again on the end you just came from, and just like make it go back and forth. So then if you stop, they'll start making noise right where you're at. Like, feel like I'm not playing this game. And so then the shit in the room just starts making noise. It's so fucking funny.
What are the personalities that you have there? What are some of their personalities like?
So Miss Belanger is very flirty and dirty. That's how I refer to her to all of my guests, is flirty and dirty.
What was her name?
Miss Belanger. So she has to be in her 70s or 80s. She was one of the ladies who was at the nursing home. She was kept in the hospice care wing, which is actually our north wing, but she mainstays the south wing quite a bit. I think that was where she was before she ended up going into hospice. But she's very touchy-grabby, feely with the menses. She can be downright inappropriate sometimes. Like one group, it was like 4 or 5 guys and probably like the same amount of girls. It was weird to see that big of a group with like the even numbers, because you usually don't see that many guy investigators with female investigators. It was a weird dynamic. But they're sitting in the room and they're doing an EVP session, and these 2 guys branch off and go by themselves back into the south wing, right? And so they come back and like, is there an old lady back there? I said, yeah, why? We caught this voice. We're just making sure that like this was relevant. Play it back. Nice butt. And I'm like, Miss Belanger, like this is a different climate, ma'am. Permission, okay? I always tell my ghosts about consent too, because they have an issue with that. So I've had to have a huge talk with my ghosts about, this is a different day and age. We don't just go groping people. Like, we ask before we touch, and things like that. And Nick did not take kindly to that discussion one night. That same night, nice butt, the gentleman continuously got groped throughout the night. He said he would feel like hands like running up his legs, or like the inside of his legs.
Oh my God.
His butt being touched constantly, or something doing this to his hair. And I'm like, I'm sorry, shit. Like, I told y'all, she's dirty and flirty. Like, there, like in between with her, she's just who she is. Grandma got game. It's whatever. So then that night that I was having that consent talk with Nick, because we kept getting our asses grabbed, myself and 4 other ladies in the group, as soon as we'd get into a room and all like get kind of like into like a semicircle almost, it was like a honka 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 honka, like just a running through the line, and you would see all of us like actively like a domino reaction. You know what I'm saying? And we have no way of like, I don't know these people. You know what I'm saying? We're just in there doing we're just doing the haunted history tour at this point. We're not even investigating. I'm just doing the walkthrough tour. And we all just kind of like go, ooh, like all of the time we're like, did you? Yeah. And I'm like, Nick. And so then we had to have a talk about consent. And so after that talk, I got honka-honked up in the front multiple times throughout that night. And then one of the other ladies kept getting her ass grabbed consistently throughout the night. And then the next weekend, I get this weird, like, I don't even know how to describe it, but he kept doing like this down my back. And I'm like, that's not any better. That's kind of worse. Be more gentle about it, but it's still kind of ooky. So can we not, like, this is not the relationship I want to have with you. Okay. So we need to kind of like switch gears. And then I'm at a Paracon. I can't even remember which one it was at because we did so many this year. This lady goes, do you know that you have not necessarily an attachment, but a spirit who's like obsessed and infatuated with you? And I'm like, yeah, tell Nick I said to back off. Because at that point, he had started like just hopping in.
Really?
And I'm real good about making sure nothing falls. You know what I'm saying? Like, we have our barriers, but he got to the point where he would just like come and chill whenever he wanted to. Like, he'd come into my house or I'd be somewhere random and he'd be like, what's up? And I'm like, dude, you can't be doing this. Like, this is not okay.
Wow.
And he got a little bit like obsessed. So we had to have there was this whole thing in between between April and May. No, it was probably the end of I was actually the end of June that we finally got it to the point where it wasn't affecting me negatively. Because it got to the point where he was like starting to attach. It got really weird. Yeah, and I've never told anyone about this except for the few people that helped me with it. But it got really weird because I was I don't want to get rid of him. You know what I'm saying? Like,
sure.
It's a misplaced sense of it's a misplaced sense of love that he's never gotten. It's definitely
so he has no boundaries. Doesn't have boundaries. Yeah.
Exactly. It's trying to think of the word. I know the word, but it's escaping me right now. It's a transference. You know what I'm saying? Like, that relationship that he sees as, I see him more as like my son. You know what I'm saying? But the transference of that relationship energy, of that love, mistaking that type of love for that type of love, was something we had to work through. It was really fucking weird to have a ghost stalker, basically. Like, that was just because I would even have random friends be like, hey, do you know? And I'm like, yes, I know my other friends who have the same thing I have, you know? They'd be like, do you know? And I'm like, yes, he won't go away. But I don't want him to go away, you know? So we had to find a middle ground for him to not be weird and sit at the edge of my bed when my husband's sleeping next to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, it got that fucking weird. My husband doesn't do this. He's like, nope. He believes in it, but that's why he doesn't do it. Because he's seen the things that come home, like, that happen to me constantly. Yeah. When this would happen, he'd be like, who's sitting at the edge of the bed? And I'm like, no one. He was like, I can see it. I can see it. Freaking the fuck out. He's not like he don't do this. Like, he's like, I can see it. Tell it to go away. And I'm like, you're making him mad. He's like, I don't fucking care. This is my house. And I'm like, oh my God. This is not helping the situation at all. Then my husband is literally verbally having a fight with my ghost boo, apparently. Like, it was just, my life is so fucking weird. And I teach children too. So it's like, they left this bitch around kids. They sure do.
So what do you think the age range of this Nick is? Like teenager or young adult or?
Oh, so the children come from the trauma center. And I do believe that one of the children's spirits that I've had come through, I think, is from a neighboring house or the land that's surrounding it. I don't think they actually belong to the asylum. That's just where they've decided to come and play, because they're not there all the time. They come and go. But also that area is very steeped in native culture and beings. Hello, Haley.
Hi, Haley.
Good night. But then you have the age ranges of, the 50 to 80. 95 was the oldest person on record at the nursing home.
Wow.
Yes. Okay. And she was a native lady. as well. We actually had a lot of Native people as patients.
Okay.
Because it's a huge Choctaw
I was
nation.
gonna say it makes sense.
Yeah, it's still heavily Choctaw Nation. Like a lot of our patrons are actually Choctaw members. The gentleman who lives across the street from me is a Choctaw Nation member. He comes and plays songs for the ghosts when they start messing with him at his house.
Aw.
So he's like, so when you leave on the weekends, they come over. It's like they're not done playing yet, so they come over and they start moving stuff in my house and making noise and just talking and running around all night. So can I come play them songs?
Oh.
To ask them to stay out of my house in a respectful way, though. And I was like, absolutely. So he comes and plays songs for them, and it's become like a thing. And it's actually funny to see how him playing the music shifts the energy in there. It's definitely more, much more playful and just light, which is weird because it's never light in there. No matter how nice the spirits are getting, it's always heavy because of everything that's happened in that building and on that land. It just sits on you very heavily. But
Do you know what type of music? Do you know what type of music he's playing?
We played everything, like country music. We played a bunch of Darius Rucker songs and some old Hank Williams. Like he played like everything. And then music is also a big trigger for them. They love listening to music. So I always play them everything from like the 50s. I play a bunch of Elvis, Chuck Berry, Etta James, Patsy Cline. Like I play all of like the really good, my playlist basically. I play them and they get downs with it. It's pretty awesome. But I also sit there and I'll play like Nirvana and Soundgarden and things like that for Nick because he was very like anti-establishment, like blah blah blah. So I play that type of music for him. So I play music for everyone, and then I also play Disney princess song music for Emily, which is the main little girl spirit that we have there. And she once told us that she wanted a yellow princess dress, so we bought one for her. And after that, you would always just hear this humming coming back from the room where her dress was kept before someone stole it.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
They will steal anything that is not pinned down, and if it's pinned down, they'll get something and unpin it and take it too.
Except that one room.
Which one? The one with the walls?
The one with all the lumber, building materials.
Oh yeah. Well, because you know what happens back there, though. I truly believe like they hit that because everyone, even on tours and stuff, before I even say what happened there, we hit that spot and you see everyone hesitate. Even people who are just like random, like the public haunted history tours, people who have no inclination of what this is, don't have that sixth sense or wherewithal to be like, this feel the energy shifting over here, you know. Everyone just kind of stops and goes, I don't know if I want to go back there. And I don't know if it's because of all the blood and like the black tarps hanging down and how like butchery it looks. But yeah, people have a problem with that area.
So I got a question for you, Ashley, that Carla likes to ask me a lot. Do you think spirits are good or bad in nature, and how do you tell the difference?
I think it's just like humans. I don't think anyone is necessarily good or bad in nature. I think it's all about their environment and their surroundings. I believe that we can. So I always say if you're an asshole in life, you're an asshole in death. But I also believe just like how you can change the fact that you're an asshole in life, you can also change that in death. What we do, I call them white light therapy sessions, which is basically just having therapy sessions with ghosts. I just go in, and my more troublesome ones, of course, we worked on first, because I say we, but I don't know who this fucking we is. Like, I got a mouse in my pocket. The ones that I worked on first, yeah, were definitely Nick. Nick was the first one, because I was like, without working, not just working on him, but without helping him. Let's put it that way. Without helping him first, it's not going to be safe to bring anybody else into this building, because it's barely safe to bring myself into this building at this point, you know? Because he was just very aggressive and just always in your face, man. It's so weird just how that dynamic has changed so much. But with him, it was definitely I get that no one was ever there for you in life, but I'm not ever going to leave you. Even if I don't own this like for some reason I don't ever own this building anymore or anything, you're welcome for your home to be with me. I will take care of you, because someone needed to take responsibility for him. No one had ever done that. He is one of the only people that I actually know his real backstory, his real name, had all the clarification from what we were capturing to what his cousin had fed back to me during one of the lives. Actually, we went off camera, and that's why I use Nick as his nickname and not his real name, because I have an NDA with his family. So we can use his story, but not use his actual name.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
He was bounced around constantly as a child. He would stay with aunts and uncles, grandma, grandpa, whoever could take care of him, because his parents were always in and out of jail. And then his grandma died, and his grandpa died shortly after. And those were the main staples of who kept him. All of the other aunts and uncles had their own kids to worry about, couldn't really take care of him. He ended up in juvie by the time he was 12. So he actually had gone to the asylum when it was the level E facility. So when it was the halfway house for juvenile offenders, he had stayed there. Then he got out, stayed with family. It was one of his aunts. He had stayed with them for a while. And then he went to it again when he got into high school, because he got kicked out of high school. He got suspended and had to go to it as the alternative school, which was running in the same exact wing as the level E facility. So the only thing that I could have thought of before, our relationship kind of grew the way it did, was that's the only place that ever felt like home to him. That was the only place that was ever consistent, that ever gave him any type of stability or grounding.
Right.
Where he even probably had a room that he could call his own, even if it was, a shitty little lockup. Like, it was the most comfort that he had ever had, and that speaks volumes that it was a halfway home and an alternative school.
Right.
And I don't know. It was just focusing on that. And also depression. He had killed himself. I deal with that quite a bit. I also deal with bipolar disorder. So any type of mental illnesses, I'm much more empathetic to, which is saying something, because I'm already pretty freaking empathetic to everyone. That sucks. That's why I don't go out in public, y'all. I stay inside because I can't do people. But just making it a home where he had rules and boundaries, but he could also be himself to the extent that it actually helped him find himself. You know what I'm saying? Like, be yourself, but gauge that. Figure out where your boundaries are. Into the situation with somebody and you're reacting towards them with scratching them or throwing glass at them, maybe just give them like a jump scare instead. Like we worked on that a lot. Like, don't actually have it be something physical. Like, I get that you like scaring people. I think it's funny, but maybe just scare them in like a funny way, not like a life-threatening way. Like, it doesn't always have to be like blood-drawingly serious for you to scare them. Because trust me, people will get scared at basically anything.
Right.
It was just things like that. I legit just sit there for hours and hours on end, asking whoever wants to come in and talk. Do you have anything you want to get off your chest today? What is there that you need to let go of? Things like that. And it's crazy because I'll have random ass spirits that I've never encountered before, especially within the past 7 or 8 months. I think a lot of them have started coming out of the woodworks. I've been okay, she's been here for a while. We can trust her, and interact with people that I've never even interacted with or have never even sensed being in that building before. So it's weird that I just sit in a room alone with no cameras rolling, no nothing, just talking to myself for 7-8 hours. But it works. You can ask anyone who's been there from the day that I first started doing the investigation tours and everything to now, that it's different. They've changed. And I think that speaks volumes, that when we go into locations and we just automatically assume that everything that's negative is evil, and everything that gives us a heavy, dark feeling, or everything that, leaves a 3 on us or scratches us is something evil trying to attack us or attach and things like that. I think they're just misunderstood for the most part, and that we need to be a little bit more patient.
Mm-hmm.
and empathetic, and instead of reacting to their negativity with more negativity, try and balance that out, because they're probably super used to being reacted to that way. React to them differently.
Yeah.
And the being scratched thing, you don't know how good they are at being a ghost yet. You don't know if they're just sitting there and trying to like reach out and like give you a pat on the back, but they've used too much force, so you ended up getting scratched. And I always bring this up. What are the first 3 fingers that touch someone when you touch them? When your hand touches someone, these 3 fingers hit first, and it takes another effort to sit there and make these go. Somebody could just be sitting there and reaching out, trying to like lovingly tap you or something, and it comes off as 3 because that's all their energy could muster was those 3 before these could contact you. So now you're calling grandma a demon.
Right.
Like, we can't be so quick to make every bad interaction a bad entity or a bad spirit.
Right.
It's not bad. It's just misunderstood. I think, because there are a lot of places that I've gone where people are like, there's something so evil here. And I'm like, he's a dick. He's a straight up dick. But he's not evil.
Yeah.
Trust me, no evil. That's not evil. He's just a cunt. Like, no way around that. Maybe, you just listen to him and just kind of, shot the shit with them, got to know him a little bit more, he wouldn't be so rude to you.
No.
Sometimes that's all it takes. And then if a stranger came up into let me phrase it this way. If a stranger came up into your house and was just like, how old are you? What year is it? What's your favorite color? What did you like to eat? What year did you die? Do you know you're still alive? Do you know you're still alive? How pissed would you be if someone just someone you do not know, just came up and without like really introducing, like, hi, I'm Ashley. By the way, answer these questions. Make something move for me. Can you get up and go and move that door right now? I know you're resting, but can you get up and...
Well, what's worse is if they're there like 2-3 times and that's the same questions over and over.
Don't even get me started on that shit. Oh my God. Don't even get me started on that shit. But it really is, like, have some common sense about it.
Sure.
You would not like if someone came up into your house, someone you did not know, just stood up in the middle of your living room and started shouting off commands at you.
Mm-hmm.
Would you expect them to be like, oh, sure, dang, Skippy, let me go ahead and just get right on that for you?
Mm-hmm.
The fuck? That's not how any of this works. Like, it drives me nuts. Or the people who are like, so I heard that you're tough and you like to do this and that, and then bring that energy in and then get shitty when they actually get attacked or something bad happens to them. And it's like,
yeah,
you realize you literally
Ask for it.
For what just happened to you. And then you're going to get pissed at the ghost for delivering. If anything, you should be like, thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
They gave you what you asked for. You can't get pissed when you get what you give. Like, just, so mad. This field is so frustrating. It's stupid.
Yeah.
It's just so stupid.
I feel like we need guidelines sometimes.
That's what Perunity is for, right?
So that actually segues to a good question I have for you, Ashley.
Oh my God, I just got Mountain
Hopefully
Dew.
it doesn't get you in trouble with the spirits, but which spirits are your favorites?
Oh, fuck, you're going to get me so in trouble. I don't have a favorite, I will say, because I think I have a different type of relationship with each one, but it's just as meaningful as the other. I think that we've connected in different ways that they're just as significant to me. Mm-hmm. They're significant in their own ways. The one I am closest to, though, is definitely Nick. But I don't know if that's by choice or that sense of duty and responsibility I feel towards him. I think it's a weird mix of both. I think it's I want to, but also I have to. Because if I've come this far with him and I decide to just like jump ship, That'd be the absolute shittiest thing anyone's ever done to him in his life, and his life's been pretty shitty, you know. And I say in his life, and he's dead, but you know what I mean, like
Yes.
his span of being,
Yeah.
his span of being, you know,
So-
still being here.
Yeah.
And
Let me
I've
put
tried
it
to
this
cross him
way.
over, like
Yeah.
not try to cross him over, because you know I don't do that. Like I don't believe in crossing over and that thing. I've told him it's okay if you don't want to be here. If you feel like you're trapped here, you're welcome to go somewhere that's going to make you feel more comfortable and more happy. That's fine by me. You won't hurt my feelings at all. Like we've gone through those motions, and he's never once been like, okay, peace, and like dipped out. It's always just like, no thanks, and just stay. So I think that speaks volumes.
Yeah.
So I can say with the 3 times I've been there, looking forward to number 4 on August 20th.
Woo!
You
Pretty soon.
always have different techniques that you do each time I'm there. How do you pick which technique you're going to use that night?
Now, what do you mean? Because, okay, you have to understand, most of the times when we investigate, I'm not like...
So the first
I'm
night...
Yeah.
The
most of the time it's them, not me.
Yeah. Because, like, the first night you were sitting across from someone, just like you were talking, sharing energy, and something flew by. The second time,
in that room.
Right. The second time you were kind of just like walking around and stuff was going on, not really using a technique I would recognize. But then the third time you sat in the circle, did the dowsing rods, or we sat in that one room and you were like, okay, this is what I'm sensing and picking up. So that my question to you is how do you get guided? Is it the spirits say, hey, let's do dowsing rods and
Absolutely.
let's do this?
They tell me which rooms they want people in. That's why if you guys have like, I don't know if you've ever been in a group when this happens, but we'll be sitting in a room. And so I talk to myself a lot, but I'm really like having conversations. I look like a fucking crazy person because you're sitting in a room full of people and I'm just like, but why do you want them in there? And I'm like, yeah, but are you going to be like, you're going to be shitty about it, right? Like you're not going to do nothing to them. Like I'm just having like this full ass conversation like with myself. They're like,
No, she does.
Get them into that back room. I want them into the room of the circle. I'm like, okay, but why do you want them in the room of the circle? Like, is it because sometimes you have to be wary of his intentions, especially if it's Nick asking you to bring someone somewhere. Sometimes he tries to get people separated so he can try and attach to someone just to fuck around with other people. So you have to be kind of wary about him at times. So especially if it's Nick asking, I will have like a full like 10-minute conversation, like side like, but you gotta promise though, like promise, like for realsies, like pinky swearsies, like types, like having just full on conversation, like okay, we're gonna go back there, and then everyone looks at me and I'm like, "Oh, so are we going?" And it's funny how everyone's come to the point where they just like trust to go with what I'm, because they see that it fucking works. So everybody's like, okay, what room are we going to next? So everyone just like picks up and goes to the room that like somebody's calling them into. And as soon as we get into the room, you just hear like, bam, shove, or somebody gets pushed and just like, you said you were gonna be nice. Like, I wasn't. So I've just let everyone into a trap, basically. Cool. Or there'll be times where like what they want to interact with, that's a lot of Emily and Miss Ballinger. A lot of that, whenever the dowsing rods come into play, they want to play with those. So I'm like, they'd really like to talk right now, but they want to use those, you know. The German gentleman, he really likes hearing his own voice. So EVPs are the best way to communicate with him. I've kind of learned how all of my spirits prefer to communicate. What's their favorite mode of communication? And so that comes into play, but it's not just me being like, oh, I know that this is what they prefer. It's them being like, hey, get the dowsing rods. What is that? Like, get it. And then give them and then tell me who they want to talk to, you know? So I'm like, okay, well, I need you to hold these right now. You might not feel comfortable, but just give me a second and let me, you know, and then they start and they're like, what's happening? And I'm like, yeah, it's cool, huh? And Miss Ballinger loves giving hugs. So my favorite thing is, Miss Ballinger, can you give them a hug? And the dowsing rods just go and you wrap all the way around you, super tight. And if it's a dude, she won't let go. Apologize. You let go. And you will sit there and you can actually try and pull the rods physically off of this person and just keep going. It's the weirdest fucking thing. I've never seen dowsing rods be immovable like that. I've had 2 gentlemen that she just would not let go of. And I'm sitting there trying to pull and it just kept going. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to impale this. Like, good thing I have these liability waivers.
Right?
Yes. But good thing I have liability waivers because this dude's going to get punctured by this 80-year-old ghost lady who's just trying to give him hugs. And how do you explain that to your insurance? Like, let's just.
Well, not only the insurance, but the medical doctor. Something happened. Go, there was a dowsing rod on my shoulder.
I think the hospitals and care centers in Broken Bow are used to like a lot worse and weirder. I don't think that would even be like on their top 10 of like what the fuck moments. I'm pretty sure someone's come in with like a raccoon up their ass or something. So. I love you, Broken Bow, but you know it's true.
Oh my God.
Maybe more the Eagletown area. Jess is gonna kill me.
Yeah. So before we go, because our time is, I want to respect your time. You had mentioned in your bio that you do work with bullying.
Yeah, I bully everyone.
Do you want to give a quick shout out about that?
So Paranormal Bully Busters is a very big thing, near and dear to me, but it became something very just kind of like anything you really try and do in this field that's for a non-selfish purpose. People always find a way to turn it into a selfish purpose, you know?
Yeah.
So it started off as my idea was that I knew so many different people, including myself, who had social media platforms that had crazy amounts of followers. The shows that we do alone, for the American Ghost Hunter show or the podcast and things like that, we have at least, like, even if it's just a small night, 300-400 people watching, but one out of every 3 of those people is suffering with alcoholism, and 1 of every 5 of those people suffering with depression, and 1 in 4 of those people is suffering with either rape or incest or spousal or physical abuse and things like that. You know what I'm saying? There's so many people that we're reaching, but we're not actually reaching them with anything pertinent aside from our weird knowledge of creepy shit. So I decided to make Paranormal Bully Busters as a platform to where any paranormal teams who had even just like pages, just public Facebook pages or Twitter pages, whatever it was, you could share resources. So you share resources for Narcotics Anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous, the Stomp Out Bullying Foundation, which actually gives schools resources. It gives the teachers, the parents, and the students like this whole big makeover, basically, and gives them the resources to reach out to the proper authorities to get things handled before they escalate to the point where we have children committing suicide. We have 11 and 10-year-olds committing suicide right now because of bullying. Where does that stop? That stops with us, because as adults, we should be setting a much better example in this world. We should also be making these resources so much more available than they are. So that's why we do this. We also do child trafficking, child abuse, spousal abuse, anything that you can think of. We have the resource information for it. We have the 24-hour numbers. We have the text lines, the online chat lines. Everything is free, 24/7, completely confidential. If you look up the Paranormal Bully Busters page on Facebook, you guys can look at all of the different slides that we have for all of those different information outlets. We also have everything. I translated everything into Spanish too, because we do have a lot of Spanish speaking listeners. So everything is also in Spanish. We also have a lot of viewers worldwide, like all over the UK, all over Europe, just everywhere, basically. So I've also compiled a list of emergency hotline numbers in every other country as well. So you have suicide, domestic, alcohol hotlines for every other country too. Countries that have them available, at least. You can find that resource information there if you're not from the US. But for us to use our platforms to get all of that out. So at the end of every show, at the beginning of every show, or just even every week, post those, because you don't know that one time that you posted, you've clicked in someone that, hey, there is someone who's like listening or actually cares, or here's a number where I can talk this out before I act on it.
Right.
giving people a chance to actually save themselves, kind of, I guess. But then it turned into, oh, I get my name on something. Because originally I made flyers like, thank you for, I was thinking it was going to be like 12 teams, right? That were like, hey, yeah, sure, we'll spread this. It became everybody and the teams overseas, and we had over like 400 people at one point. So I had to break it down into regions and groups, and I'm like, this is too much. Like, we just want to spread resource information. This isn't about like being seen or like so and so's name's on this one, so I want my name on this one too, so we can be. That's not what this is about. This is about helping other people.
Yeah.
So I geared it down. I switched everything, and just made it to where if you want to share the flyers and everything, you can. Everything's available. I send out the audio. You can also contact me, and I send out the audio version of it, which is all of the information, but just an audio strip of it for people who have just audio shows instead of vodcasts. And everything is also translated into Spanish there too. So I do a Spanish translation of all of the information. So you have bilingual audio of all of the different resource information that you can get out there. But it really is just working with all these other teams that want to, try and do some good in this world. Just using the voices that we have to reach all these people to help other people find their voices.
That is super cool.
It is very cool. I think we can put that link onto ours as well. Her link.
Yeah, I can send Michael the email for it. That way he can download it and add it into
Perfect.
Yeah, I can totally do that.
And do you want to do a quick shout out on your 2 shows? For all your fans?
Oh, my fans? You mean my 5 fans, including Shay and Darren and Cynthia and you? And I think I got Carla now too.
Yes.
Yeah, buddy. I think I got Carla now too.
Yeah.
I got 5 people that like me. Let's see. So, Storming the Unknown. Season 4 was supposed to come out in April, but that was just a whole to-do thing because I'm so busy with everything else, getting the asylum back up and just semi-running. It's just a whole thing. And then starting my real job again. That did not help with the time constraints that I had put on myself. So I was like, I had 2 options. And old me, I'm so proud of how much I'm growing, though. You're learning to ask for help. I might be 30 years old, but I'm fucking learning,
Yeah.
I think that's a great thing. It's not necessarily being stubborn about it. It's just I always felt so uncomfortable because I feel like I'm imposing on others by asking for help. But I realized that it's not helping me. And it's also kind of shitty to those people that care about me to think that I would feel like I'm imposing rather than just knowing that they would do the same for me as I would do for them.
Right.
So I've kind of learned to move around that. But saying no is a huge thing for me. I can't fucking say no. So I was like, I could either do my show and half-ass it and rush it and make it just okay, I'm dropping episodes every Monday like I'm supposed to be doing. Or I can wait until I get downtime, do it the right way, schedule guests the way I used to, and have my show be what it's supposed to be, as in-depth as it is, as rabbit hole-y as it is, that we get to take our time with it. And so I decided to hold off on season 4. I will actually probably be starting it right around September, so in about a month, towards the end of September, and I'm actually going to be doing nothing but murder mysteries, serial killers, cult, everything is going to be crime related this season, because every season I kind of do something a little bit different, do cryptids, UFOs, we did cults last year, things like that. So this season is probably going to be crime related, so I won't have that many guests.
Ooh, I think I know what one of those topics will be.
Yeah. And then, so the other show that I have is with the lovely Shay Carroll and Cynthia Gerodius, and then Darren motherfucking Buss. You got to meet Darren on that last show, right, Michael?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? Okay. So, those are my peeps. Those are my homies. We work on that show for Paranormal Buzz Radio. PBR, as we call it. Paps Blue Ribbon. You know it. Love it. So that is called the Paranormal Bus Stop. Now, when we say it's a no holds barred version of a paranormal show, most people like say that, but it's like they just drop a bunch of F-bombs and stuff. Ours is like that, but we get real so the things that people don't like touching on because it's taboo, or they're like, oh, this is too negative, or what. We don't care about that. We will talk about anything and everything, and the rabbit holes we go into, and the things that we talk about, the things that we touch on, are things that everyone wants to ask, but they're too afraid of being judged when they ask them. So we ask them for you and answer them for you too. And then they also make me do Sesame Street impressions in doing 50 Shades of Grey quotes. So that's another huge feature of that show. We usually end that with a 50 Shades of Grey quote with me doing some type of Sesame Street character or a compilation of them.
So which is your favorite voice of the Sesame Street?
It depends on my mood. It really just depends on my mood. Because sometimes I'm in Emma, especially when I'm feeling super laughable. Sometimes when I'm feeling really, really hungry, we feel more like Cookie.
I gotta say, I love the facial expressions along with it.
Yeah.
It's like a whole experience.
I can do so I've been working on these ones, and I'm so fucking proud of myself. So have you guys ever watched Mulan?
I have.
Okay, so that part where he gets up on the rocks, when Zhao gets up on the rocks, he goes, I'm Zhao, king of the rocks, and there ain't nothing you girls can do about it.
Wow, that is almost spot on.
And then from that one, I learned that I can actually do Roz from Monsters, Inc. She goes, hold on one second. Okay. Mr. Wazowski, you forgot to file your paperwork.
That's really good.
Wow.
Oh,
That is super. That I gotta admit, if I had closed my eyes, I would have thought somebody put the TV on.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, good stuff.
All right. Well, I know we kept you after 10, and
Oh shit! I didn't even realize that.
Stuff to do. We were having so much fun. I appreciate you coming on, and
always. Thank you guys so much for having me. It was a blast. Thank you so much, Carla. Thank you so much, Mike.
And we are totally looking forward to hanging out on August 20th at Broken Bow Asylum.
You buddy, I'm so excited to investigate with y'all.
It's gonna be fun.
Yeah. I've been telling everybody this is number 4.
I hope that something drastic happens to you this time. Not like in a bad way. That sounded very menacing.
I was like, I'm sitting there going, thanks, I think.
Not in a bad way. I mean, I hope Miss Belanger just holds your hand the whole night and just skips down the hallways with you and it's thanks for coming to visit me so much. Something like that.
Yeah.
Not a bad thing, but just something.
We'll have to get that on tape.
Right. Michael skipping down a hall with just invisible. Oh, yes, please.
Oh my gosh.
We're gonna have to get a shot of that just because.
Just because, yeah.
Just gonna be all right, Michael, this hallway, get to it.
Yeah. I can just see it now. It's gonna be on the promo reel for all your stuff. Come to this asylum. You never know what you're gonna see, and then you see me skipping around the corner.
If either of you have a picnic basket, please bring it. Because there's nothing more perfect than skipping with a picnic basket. It's just the perfect aesthetic. It's perfect.
In an asylum, what else would you be having?
Shock therapy treatment. Not as appetizing. Oh man. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
So you have
anytime.
So we posted this to all the members who are going to be joining us on the 20th. Mm-hmm. Do you have any message you want to give to them to entice them to look forward to coming.
Get your party pants ready, fuckers.
Nice.
All right, y'all know what you're in for
Texas,
now.
right? So, y'all.
Yep.
Y'all. Damn it. I almost made it off without doing it again. Oh no.
Don't feel bad. I've done it too on occasion.
You guys have a great night. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. You too. We'll see you soon.
So we are coming to the end of our show, and I gotta say, Carla, I think it was a lot of fun.
I think it was too.
And thank you again to Ashley for coming on such short notice.
Yeah, for sure. Looking forward to going to Broken Bow on the 20th and having the teams come along and get to experience everything.
Yeah, this is going to be number 2 for you, isn't it?
Number 2, yep.
Oh, one more, and I think there's like some special deal that you part of some club.
Start high-fiving the spirits as I walk through. I'm back.
Everyone's like, oh, good, Carla's back.
Alrighty. It was fun.
It was. And thank you to all the people who came in and commented and shared and watched with us. So we are going to sign out for now.
Yep. Thanks again.
How should we sign it
On
out?
the flip side next week.
Yep. See y'all on the next adventure.
Bye. Have a good night.
You too.